and welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show. The show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that happens in marketing and how we can not do those things and talk about some new options that maybe people haven't thought about yet, but that can create some different, more sustainable, more authentic activities that we can do with our marketing. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm just going to keep it really real for everyone for a moment right now. I have been like, I've got a lot of things going on in my life right now. Some personal stuff going on, and my brain, I feel like, is not quite working at the normal speed that it's used to working. So I want to just create the space for that. I have a wonderful guest today, and Derek, who I'm sure could just riff for the entire time if we ask him good questions. But I wanted to share that because this is a space where we talk about how humans do marketing, right? And sometimes we have rough days, and sometimes people have headaches, and sometimes people's emotions are hard, and this is a place where all of this is welcome. So I'm going to lead by example and bring that to the show today. Yeah. And if you are a marketer or a marketing expert or a consultant or anything in the marketing arena, I just want to say, please give yourself space as well yourself. This is a place where we can all just be ourselves. And if it's a day, it's a day. And if I stumble over my words, I'm going to stumble over my words. So with that, though, I am very excited to have Derek here today because for a while, I have been experiencing what I think is a lack of focus, I'm going to call it. Focus on relationships when it comes to marketing. And for a very long time, marketing has kind of been, again, my perspective, moving a little bit more and more away from humans building relationships with each other. And so today, this is kind of what we're going to jam on today. We're going to talk about what does it look like to actually build relationships with our marketing efforts instead of just doing a bunch of things that, there's some cool tech and some cool AI and some cool things that the marketing department has created over the years. But today we're going to bring it back to really the core of human relationships and talk about relationships and how that can be used from a marketing perspective. And I'm super excited to have Derek as part of this conversation today because I know that he's at least as passionate about me as this topic, maybe more because he's even written a book about it. So Derek, before we get into the conversation today, would you like to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about how relationship building in marketing and what it means to you?
Yeah. So the just a little background on myself. I've been in B2B marketing for 30 years now, 20 of those in the executive function and a couple of CMO roles along the way, including being chief marketing officer at a company called Catalan today. Catalan is in the automated software testing market. My passion in marketing is usually going into small B2B startups that are not well known in their market and trying to grow something out of nothing, as I often refer to it. I love all of the levers that marketing has to offer, from product marketing to demand gen to community to web to field events and all of those things. And I'm very much a data-driven marketer when it comes to what are we doing? What's the plan? I was just telling you, my alternative time today, or the stuff that I'm not doing today that is working on my next year fiscal plan. And there's a lot of just it's numbers and it's spreadsheets and it's reports and here's what we're doing. But as you were saying at the beginning, as I progressed through my marketing career, and marketing has become less of the art that it used to be and more of the science and the data-driven aspect behind it. I think there's also this element of we've gotten so focused on the data that many marketers have kind of lost sight of the market and the people and the relationships and the things that we're trying to accomplish in the market. And part of, ask anyone, if you're in marketing, ask anyone in the sales organization how important relationship building is to their job, right? Yes, it's a numbers game. Like you got to meet your number for the quarter or whatever, but you have to build relationships with the market. And I think there's a lot of marketing that kind of forgets that. And you see it, like you go to, some website and it's like digitally transform your enterprise into like the new scale of blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no one talks like that, right? Like
It's true.
I was having a conversation with someone on my team a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about certain messaging that we were using, and it just felt like too like raw and unauthentic and like stuff people would say that don't know anything about the market. And I just said, let's take a step back. If someone came up to you at our booth at the trade show, what would you tell them? Like, how would you explain this? And he says, I would say that, they're working on a difficult project and it's taking a lot of time and, they want this outcome. I'm like, why don't you just say that? Why are we trying to like make up marketing words or use adjectives that no one normally uses about things? And I think that's a reflection of marketers not connected enough to the market, not building relationships with people in the market to really understand what they're doing. And, often like the best ideas come from, my gosh, we just had a conversation with this customer. I was just on a customer call, or I was just at this event and I was talking to this prospect or this person that's a thought leader in the industry. And they said this, and like, I learned so much from that and the story that they told. And that kind of understanding and relationship that is built makes marketing so much better. And the people that are really connected to the market and those relationships end up being much better marketers. When you're like, you go to someone's website or something and you're like, these people are literally talking to me. I've got this problem, right? And not like the other like more common alternative is you go to the site or whatever and you're like, oh my God, what do these people do? I don't even understand it. Like they're just talking about themselves. Like if I talk about myself enough, you'll understand who I am and what I do. And maybe that will help you, Tracy. Like I'm sure, one of the, I'll wrap up quickly, but one of the things that I put in my book, it's a quote that I found online, but I thought it was so important. Is like, if you spend all your time talking about yourself on the first date, there won't be a second date. And it was that like, when you're talking about yourself in marketing, you're not building a relationship with the market. You're not building that connection, and that the people-centric side of things, I think, is a little bit of, or a lot of what's missing in marketing today. So.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have so many things to talk about because I wrote like 8 things down already. I want to just recognize that Trista is joining us. Relationships are so important. I think we are all on the same same train with that. And for those of you who are watching live, just so you know, we can't actually see you unless you make a comment. So we would love to hear any of your thoughts based on what Derek has shared so far, or any experiences, knowledge, questions that you have on the topic of building market relationships. Because, I mean, this is going to be, there's a lot to talk about. So feel free to ask your questions because we could go lots and lots of directions with this. Okay, I was trying to figure out what direction I want to go because, like I said, I think I have like 4 different directions we can go. But I do want to talk, I want to start with, you mentioned a couple of times, Derek, like market relationships. And I'd love to just create some clarity on that, because I think still a lot of times when we're creating target audiences and things of that nature, we create this separate market, like our ideal clients. ICP is right. We use fancy words for it, but somehow we create a human profile, but there's still like, I feel like there's something missing there. So like, I'd love to just like hear your thoughts around how do we actually make this human from a relationship building perspective.
So let me dive into one particular experience that I have in my career. Back in 2016, a number of friends and I decided that we had spent enough time in our market, which at the time my company was focused on its participation in the DevOps market, making much faster, much more continuous software releases for any businesses. So it's commonplace today. It was not commonplace back then, but we were basically seeing that there was a lot of education that was being missed out in the market there. And there was an opportunity to bring education to the market through what we could do is putting together a platform for people to come in or I should say more of a forum. When I say platform, people think, oh, software or whatever.
Right.
Like, no, we were building a forum for people to come together and share information online on a global basis. We started a community effort called All Day DevOps. And that ended up in, long story short, from the 0-day ideation to execution 90 days later, we had 13,000 people show up to this virtual conference. And what began to form a community that then grew over the years to over 100,000 members within this. These people all came together to share information and insights on the market and what was happening at large in this. And through that experience, I and my colleagues and also my peers across the industry were able to form relationships with people in the market that better informed how my company was going to market. So this particular community and the things that we were doing and even the investments that we made at my company to create that forum, we're not going out and pitching our products and telling people about our products and our company and how great it was and how successful we were and how successful others would be using the products. It was building relationships with the market and the community to understand what was important to them. When it comes down to the kind of the brass tacks of like relationship building, and you were saying like, as marketers, we define our ICPs and our target markets and what have you. I kind of look at it as like brass tacks. If I want to know the market, right, or know something about the market, I call Hassan, I call John, I call Mark, I call Shannon, I call Matt, right? And like, these are literally people that I know in the market, might be my customers, probably not my customers, people that will provide insight, people that I started relationships with back in 2015, 2016. And I can literally still reach out on LinkedIn today and say, Brian, right? Brian Finster, I need some insights on this kind of thing. Can you tell me about it? Share some experience. Can we get on a call and do this? And that informs so much more of what we're doing in the market and how we behave in marketing and how we go out to market. And there are so many of those things that one, on a personal relationship side, you just get better at marketing in general. But when you go out on a even broader path, there are more implications and advantages to marketers that are that in touch with the market. Like, who in your marketing team can reach out to 10 people in the market and have a conversation about what's going on that not a salesperson, but like the people that know the market, right? And it's not just we have slides and we have data and we have a database of contacts, any of that. I think that's a little more of what I'm talking about. And that relationship doesn't, that role, functional role, doesn't really exist in marketing, right? This is kind of one of my soapbox items for this year, is that when I ask people who in marketing serves that role, who owns the relationships with the market, I often get, oh, we have a customer marketing team. So they talk to the customers that we have. I'm like, okay, those are people that already bought from you, right? They have an invested relationship with you beyond the people that have that investment with you and your company. Who in marketing talks to the market, right? And there really is not a common role that I've seen anywhere. If anyone's watching this and they're like, that's me, like, please reach out in the comments and say that's me. I have those kind of relationships, or ping me on LinkedIn and say, I want to talk, because I'd love to understand what that role is. I've had people kind of like myself fall into that, doing that on a part-time basis, but not a true functional role that I think is truly important to the marketing organization. Yeah. And to give you a sense also of how this worked, at my company, because of the relationships that I held and others in the marketing organization held, we would do a road show throughout the US. And let's say we're going to New York, Atlanta, Dallas, San Francisco, and Seattle. And our field marketing team would reach out and say, we want to attract the biggest audience that we can. And if we just go and talk about ourselves and our product, we're not going to get a really big audience. Like, Derek, who do you know? I'm like, Atlanta? I know Chris, I know John, I know Michael, I know Susan, right? I know Elizabeth, like at these different companies, and they talk to the market. And I'm sure like if I called them, they would be happy to speak. Those kind of relationships that you build with a market meant that we could show up in that market, provide value in that market. And when we did a roadshow event, we were attracting 4 or 5 times more people than we would if it was just our company showing up to do a road show. We're ending up in Atlanta next week, and here's what we're going to talk about our own company. Like, come and listen to Catalan. We're going to have like Catalan's president, our CEO and our head of sales and our head of product, and we're going to talk about our product roadmap and do demos. Like, yeah, you and like 100 other vendors out there, right? But like when you bring in the relationships with the market and really like help people in that market, you can do a lot more with those relationships.
Yeah. And I think there's an interesting point here too about what I wrote down is about using your resources instead of some of the other things that we do talk about a lot in marketing. We talk about data, we talk about tactics, we talk about platforms, we talk about visibility, we talk about a bunch of other things when it comes to marketing. But there is a skill that allows people to create humans as resources. So like you said, Derek, you can go out and you can ask all of these people either to like, hey, we're going to have this is what happened with my first in-person networking event, right? Is that people were like, hey, you have really good online virtual networking events. Can we have in-person networking events? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Let's see how many people come. And like 28 people came. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, great. But that's not because, a few of those people I didn't know, but 90% of those people I knew. We have enough in common to want to get together. So we get together and we have a conversation, and it leads to other things, right? So does it always lead to a sale? No, but it leads to a different level of connection than what happens if you're just looking at digital ads or TV ads or, quite honestly, I don't like to talk that much about channels because I feel like all channels can be used well and all channels can be used poorly. And so it's not really the channel that's necessarily the problem, but it's how people use the channel. And while social media can be very social and can allow you to build those kinds of relationships, there's a lot of people who don't use social media that way, and therefore that doesn't manifest because the actions that you're taking don't match the outcome you're desiring.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
not that you should stop doing the traditional marketing stuff.
Right.
Like, we all, as marketers, like the majority of my team is working on traditional marketing stuff. But I do have a portion of my team that is also focused on building relationships in the market, building relationships with the community at large. And in doing so, elevating our brand. At Catalan, as well as when I was back at the Linux Foundation as CMO there, when I was VP of marketing at Sonatype, we were doing similar things there. There is a portion of the investment in the team's activities that focuses on building and maintaining those relationships in the market. Not everyone in the marketing team needs to do this. The kind of relationship role that I talked about before is a functional area role, just like PR or product marketing or demand gen or content development, right? It's just another functional area of the team that needs to be invested in, or that when you invest in it, it pays massive dividends. And I think that a lot of people haven't seen it or experienced it. And that's part of why I wrote the book on, like, hey, the book, by the way, it's called Unfair Mindshare, CMO's Guide to Community-Led Marketing in a Product-Led World. But it talks about my experience and other companies' experiences in building and leading community-led marketing efforts as part of an overall marketing strategy, and really helping people understand, what is this? How does it work? Why did that particular company, why is it working so well for that particular company? How did they reach all of those people and engage? Like, they seem to have really strong relationships with everyone in the market. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's more orchestrated,
Right.
or it can be more orchestrated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think this is, so I'd love to talk about, from coming back to like the human experience of this, right? Because there are going to be marketing team members who are responsible for other things, right? SEO, graphic design, things like that, which we also need as part of an overall marketing plan. But from that human perspective, what is the benefit that you've seen on the teams that you've been, and maybe even for yourself, Derek, of being that person who is responsible for building those relationships? Like, how, from a personal accomplishment or connectivity perspective, does that make you feel accomplished or connected, or some of these more just like ways of being, parts of being a human?
Yeah. So one is, it's a ton of fun, right? to just, I mean, doing this, like building a relationship with you, spending time with you, like sharing this with other people out there, like this kind of effort is a ton of fun. When thinking about the company and marketing and the approach out to market, the thing that I really got from building relationships in the market was just having a pulse of, having access to the pulse of the market, where I could go and have an idea of, like, this is how I think we should go to market as a company. This is why I think this product is so valuable in the market that we're in charge of promoting as marketers at the business. The CEO is expecting me as the head of marketing to promote the product out into market and help generate awareness and consideration for our sales teams to follow up on. The relationship building part of that and spending time with the market says, you know what? When we say this, people's eyes light up. That sparks the conversation. That tightens the relationship, improves the trust, and understanding that we get the customer as much as they understand their problem, we understand the problem. And being able to go out to people like Brian and Shannon and others in the market and say, hey, I have this idea of this. and how we work and how we behave and why our thing is meaningful. And they're like, no, Derek, you're absolutely crazy. Like, you're just sitting at home imagining like, this is how glorious things are. Here's how it really is. This is the problem that I really have. This is the problem with the teams and the people and the processes. And by the way, the other 3 vendors that I need to integrate your thing with that create the headache because they're not updating their stuff as often as you are. Like, that kind of real conversation that resonates just in like the hallway track kind of thing helps you go back to the office and create a web page or create a sales pitch or create a webinar or create a landing page or create a campaign that you're like, if we say this, people will listen because it will be clear that we're listening to the market versus the people that, I often refer to cubicle marketing, but there are a lot of people that do this of like, they sit in a cubicle or they sit at home and they're like, I bet if I said this, the market would love it. And they've spent no time with the market. So they're trying to imagine the market in the ICP because it's defined on a slide or a set of slides of like, it's this person and they're this old and they work in this industry and they have this experience.
It's busy Jenny.
And I'm like, when I meet Shannon in the hall at a conference, I'm like, where do you work? What do you do? What's your thing? Like, how did you get into the role that you're in? Like, what are your priorities? Like, those conversations are so much different than what the ICP is. And it just better informs the go-to-market aspects of what you're doing and the value of it.
Right. I mean, like, at the end of the day, ask the people, right? The people know their experience. Okay, so I do want to ask this because I think a lot of people will be asking the question or maybe would be nervous about, well, what if I ask somebody about this and then they steal my idea or somehow they like duplicate what my brand was going to do in terms of using these types of resources and networks that we have built as individuals to help us explore what the market is saying. So is that come up for some of the people you've talked with, or do you have any advice about like maybe not even to address that, but more so like the type of conversation to welcome that into?
Is it just so I get it, like, is it the person that I'm talking to of like, I'm stealing their idea? Is that
Well, I guess
the marketer is like, we have this idea of how to do some cool thing and some other company is going to steal our idea for how to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's a pretty drastic reach here. I know, but like, so let's say you're friends with Susan, right? And you've been working on this kind of thing, and you're like, oh, I was thinking about this, and it's going to bounce it off my friend Susan. I feel like it depends on the company and the culture and how big the company is and things like that. But a lot of time, people are trying to like lock down their brand. So they don't necessarily want people who are outside of that, who are not employees, to be the sounding board for those types of things. So what would be your comments on that?
It's interesting. Like, I think if you're so guarded, with what you're saying about your brand, you're probably not connected to the market. Right? Like, you're too inward focused as a result. And so I think that often if I think like we're doing some kind of big event and get together, like if I have a choice of getting together with, hey, we're Catalan, we're going to go out and we're going to have an event in Dallas, right? And we could just be us talking about ourselves and invite people. And we have a mailing list, and I'm sure we can gather an audience in Dallas to get people there and to listen to what we have to say. But I think the thing that I recognize always from the beginning of my career in marketing was whatever I was marketing, especially in the tech space, always touched something else, right? my product was never a standalone product. It always had to touch part of the network, other software, other, multiple teams across an organization, any of that. And so when I think about constructing ways to go to market and inviting people in, of whether they're a thought leader or a technology partner, a set of technology partners that we have, like, the conversation ends up being much more solution oriented, because it's like, okay, there's Catalan plus our partners at Atlassian and GitLab and Microsoft and AWS. If they're all showing up in a room, the chances of them just talking about themselves in the silos that they live in is a lot less, because they have to show up and kind of recognize for themselves and for the audience, like, why are we all here? Like, why does it matter? How are we all connected? And I think the audience also says, well, actually, like, if I was going to buy Derek's solution, I have to actually integrate it with the rest of everything else that is out there. And so that kind of having others come in to talk about kind of the overall solution and approach to solving problems that is people and technology and process and all that, makes you a more trusted vendor as a result, right? That you're talking about a solution orientation versus talking about yourself as just a product specific focus. And I think people really appreciate that. Like, there's an analogy that we often use internally in my team of, you can kind of imagine that whoever you're selling to and whatever company that you're in the same situation. Your product is not a standalone thing that doesn't work with any other products. Like, it just works by itself. It touches other technologies, other people, other processes. So I said, you have to imagine the customer as a body, right? And let's imagine that our company is in charge of building hearts. And we have the best quality heart out there. And we can go and we can pitch, like, I have this heart and it's the best heart on the market and it's the highest performing heart. But the customer with the body that the heart goes into is like, okay, I hear you, Derek. You have a really high quality heart, but I have a body, and that heart better work with the circulation system and the lungs and the liver and the brain and the blood type and like all of the connected parts, right? Like, I can't just buy the best heart there in the market, because if the heart doesn't fit in the body right, we're all in trouble. Like, it will fail, right? And the other thing to expand beyond on that analogy of the body is, it's not only that they have a body and you're the company that's selling hearts or livers or brains or eyes or whatever. It's the person that has the body is trying to run a marathon. So you have to say, I have the best heart, and by the way, it fits really well in the body that integrates with and works with all the other stuff. And when you put all this stuff together, the body can run a marathon. And so that is like going back to your question of like, why do you build relationships, or how do you bring people in, and like, are they going to reveal something that like gets you kind of off brand? If like, actually, if you think about the customer doesn't really care about your heart in particular, right? They care about their body and if the body's able to run a marathon. So when you're bringing people together to have a discussion on how do you look at the body and get the body, all the parts of the body to work together to run a marathon, like, that's what people are interested in. And there's not enough of those people having that conversation. Hopefully the analogy worked, and
No, I think this
kind of stuck with it.
I think this makes tons of sense, and I want to just quickly go to the chat here because Dan has joined us. He's saying he's enjoying the conversation so far, and that Dan and Derek should probably connect because he seems to be a super fan of yours. So yeah, connect and continue to have a conversation. Derek, to me, this is saying, I mean, a lot. People say this a lot. I don't know if they actually live this a lot, but a lot of people say collaboration over competition. And I think, even like during COVID and as things continue to evolve, people are realizing this more and more, is that we are not standalone. Like I've got an AI solution, but it doesn't exist if there's no ChatGPT, and it can only make sense for people who have sales reps who do cold calls and like blah, 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 blah. There is this bigger ecosystem of things that's happening that makes any of these given things work. And like, I just love to hear from the marketing perspective, because I think that while we know these things as humans, there still is this perspective from a marketing perspective. Like we got to watch our competitors. We got to see what they're doing for SEO. We got to make sure that we stand out. And then you kind of get into this more of a mode of being competitive. So how do you balance that actual collaborativeness with people when we also have like marketing things to do?
Yeah. Okay. So let's, we still have marketing stuff to do, right? Yeah. We have campaigns to run. We have data to collect and analyze and report on and pipeline to generate and all that. Like, no mistake, we're still going to do that. Okay. Now let's just assume I am Chief Marketing Officer at a company that sells marketing tools, right? And there are a bunch of marketers out there listening to this podcast, right? This LinkedIn live episode. And I invite you on, Tracy, and you happen to be the Chief Marketing Officer at one of my competitors. But I'm having a conversation with you about how did you start your career in marketing? Right? Let's talk about that. Where did you go to school? What was your first job? How did you progress? Who was your best manager? Who gave you the really great insight? What book did you read? What person did you see at a conference? How did you evolve your thinking as a marketer? And we're just having this conversation. And my company invited people into this conversation. We're not talking about my products at all. We're not talking about the competitors' products at all. But I'm being helpful to this audience of people, of marketers that I sell marketing solutions to, right? In the company. Am I building more trust through that kind of endeavor, even if it is a competitor or just a partner that might be smaller than us or bigger than us, what have you? If that's part of my go-to-market effort, I think I'm building more trust with my brand as someone that's willing to help people become a better marketer as a result of them building a relationship with me and my company's brand, right? And that is the standout aspect. And there are some people that are like, oh my gosh, you cannot talk to those people. You can't invite those people. They're like, not like, why did you have a conversation with someone for 45 minutes online and not talk about our products? Right? You just talked about being a better marketer. Like, do you think our audience and our ICP wants to be a better marketer if we're selling marketing tools? Yes. Is 100%, if we only talked 100% about my product and my company and my marketing platform all the time, would people pay attention? Or would people be like, no, actually, that's the company that like gave me that terrific insight about marketing, and like, I want to follow that person and buy that stuff. And now, like, I imagine there are people online going, does Catalan sell marketing automation technology? Quick answer, no, we don't. But it's that kind of trust building and brand building and relationship building with a market that really stands out, because people are afraid to do it. When someone asks, like, why did you invest time in not talking about us? Because your job in marketing is to talk about us and promote. It's like, actually, no, we don't have to do that all the time to build relationships with the market. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think this is just, it's really interesting for me, because over my lifetime so far as a marketer, I have worked for organizations who are just about helping the people, right? Like, and regardless of whether you're a salesperson, marketer, customer service rep, delivery person, right? Like you know, that's what we're here to do. We help people, and I have my role in helping people, but we're here to help people. And I've also talked to a lot of companies who have a marketing strategy of just SEOing for the same thing that their competitors do, but they like would never talk to their competitors. And it's always been confusing to me, because if I really want to fix a problem in the market, then why wouldn't I also want to talk to the other people who have their way of fixing it in the market? And maybe during those conversations, someone realizes that the way I want to fix the problem is more aligned with the way that my competitors fix the problem. And then I win, but not because I'm trying to beat them, but because I'm actually trying to say, like, okay, the world has this problem. There's X number of people who are here trying to solve this problem. A really great example, I have a friend who is like trying to clean up the ocean. Right? One person cannot clean up the ocean. It's not a thing. There's no way one person will be able to clean up the ocean to the point where it actually has a difference. There are actually lots of different organizations that are doing different things to clean up the ocean in different parts of the world, different strategies and things like that. And how much more powerful is it when all of the people who want to clean up the ocean get together to clean up the ocean in their individual ways and promote their individual ways, so the people who are aligned with that way can come on board and do the thing. At the end of the day, if we're actually in business to fix ABC problem, then we can confidently say that we are fixing ABC problem every day. And you might like that person's way, and that's great. Then go and talk to, this is why I love this episode in particular, right? Because you can have a conversation with Derek and talk about marketing relationships. You can have a conversation with me and talk about those things. You could talk to a whole bunch of the other people who've been on the Crazy Stupid Market Show about a different way to do those things. And some of them will work for you and some of them won't work for you. And when we create this collaborative effort to say, we are in this to fix this problem, this is how we're going to do it. Come on, rest of the people who are trying to fix this problem, let's go do this together.
Here's another maybe more approachable way to think about it. Like going directly out to your competitor, like the chance of them wanting to actually talk to you probably slim, right? But I reach out to my friend Hassan, right? And I say, Hassan, like, I need some insight on this technology that my company has and how you might be able to use it. And he says, you know what, Derek, I'm actually I bought your competitor's product. Like, okay, cool. One, Hassan, I've known you for a decade. Am I going to end my relationship with you? No, right? We're still going to have a relationship whether you bought my competitor's product or not, right? But Hassan, how are you using that? Why did you pick that solution? Actually, like, what else are you integrating that with? What problem are you trying to solve? What challenge did you hit when trying to implement that thing? And the things like of the likelihood of him coming out and saying, you know what, I selected this competitor and this particular feature really doesn't work as well as it was advertised, what have you. He's probably saying, you know what, when I have to work with Susan in this department that owns this tool that I need to integrate with, it doesn't do this thing. Like that understanding of hearing his experience in doing something that probably my product has to do as well. Like I can learn from that, right? And I think it's that, like, building the relationship with Hassan and whatever company he works for and whatever a company I work for, that we can have this conversation about, hey, we're all trying to fix a problem or solve a problem. Like, how can I help you? How can he help me? It might say, he might say, well, I'm trying to work with Tim in this other department. This thing doesn't work. It's like, I actually know someone that works with that technology. He's over at Walmart. Let me tell you, like, let me introduce him and help you solve that problem. And it's that building the relationship and trust with the market that can then go a lot further and be leveraged in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I mean, at the end of the day, the consumer or the client, the customer is the the one that matters. And this is a really great example that you just gave. And I want to just quickly touch on, feel like this always comes up for me, but the concept of ego, because we have the option as humans to like get really angry with someone for choosing not our product. But there will always be people who are not aligned with you or the culture of the business or the way that you do it, or it doesn't fit in with their organization or what have you. And so what's the benefit that so far that you have seen in being able to kind of just like in the example you just gave with Hassan, like letting it go. I mean, it's not about you. Like, I didn't lose the business. This person chose something different, and I want to understand that.
I think it's really like, if you get down to the core of what is motivating certain people, it's like, as a marketer, my core is I want to be a better marketer. As a father, I want to be a better father. As a DevOps pro, I want to be a better DevOps professional. As a farmer, I want to be a better farmer. Like, every year I want to like improve my craft. Like, whatever it is, whatever market you're going after, you really should not lose sight of, are you helping this person be a better blank in their career, right? And is what you're doing in going to market helping with that, right? That effort and that path that they are on, versus like just going out as marketers and talking about yourself all the time and hoping that someone listening says, oh, that might help me become a better someone. But they have to interpret that, not you actually trying to just be helpful from the start, which doesn't require interpretation of like, hey, Tracy, you're a marketer. I can help you become a better marketer by sharing some of my experience with you. And you're like, hey, I'm all ears. Yep. Right. And if I say, Tracy, I can help you become a better marketer by selling this product that I have that makes you a much better marketer. Right. And you're like, yeah, you're going to pitch me on something. Like, it's all the messages we all get on LinkedIn. Hey, Derek, if you have a moment, I have a product to pitch you. I'm like, oh, really? Like,
just like, I'm going to just say this to everybody because I'm in this kind of mood today. If you don't know me, don't assume that you know that I need your product. Okay? Okay. I'd be super happy to have a conversation with almost anybody. And then you can be curious enough about me to determine whether or not I might need what you have. But the likelihood of that is very low. So also don't go into it assuming that everybody needs what you have. Not everybody needs what you have. And I think this is something, I mean, I feel like right now, especially on LinkedIn, a lot of that is coming from sales, but it's also something to keep in the back of your mind from a marketing perspective, is that marketing isn't just about saying like, hey, everybody needs video editing. I could do video editing for you. I mean, meh. Move on, scroll.
Here's the thing. If you spend some portion of your time as a marketing organization being helpful to the market that you're serving, right? There are all these stats about 95% of the market is not interested or ready to buy the product that you're selling right now, right? So what do? Like, you're looking for intent signals of who is the 5% that's in market that's ready to do that. But when you spend time helping people, that helps improve or accelerate or expand interest or awareness of your company and your brand, that if I spend enough time talking to the market and helping them out, by the time they are in the market for that, you immediately have a short list in your head. We need to go out and find this new account-based marketing or this new, lead generation tool that helps identify our unknown users better, or we need a PR tool to give us voice of the market. Like, what's my short list? Oh, it's the companies that I have the relationship with that have helped me along for some period of time, that I know and trust those people. I'm going to them. That's my short list. And I already have 2 companies that are on that short list because they've been helpful, not like, man, that company that's been beating me over the head with product promotions for the last 3 years, I should give them a call. Like, that annoying vendor that's always talking about themselves, like, and not just being helpful as a participant in the market. Like, you want to go and work with or at least give a chance to the people that have been helpful for a very long time versus the people that are like, just can't stop talking about themselves and their product.
Yes. Okay. I want to ask you one more quick question because we
Yeah.
are running out of time. But I think a lot of times from the corporate perspective, businesses think brochures are helpful and case studies are helpful and white papers are helpful. I just wanted to get, and again, like this is now we're talking about channels, right? They can be helpful, they can not be helpful. But what are some of the things that actually make something helpful for the people, not just the like, check the box, I did the thing?
Yeah, I think that it's very easy. And I'll say that I don't have a magic number in terms of what is the balance, but let's say 90% of the stuff that your marketing team produces is talking about your company and your product in some regard. The helpful stuff is generally the stuff that is not talking about your product. If you can make the person a better blank without talking about your company or your product, that's helpful.
That's right? A very simple answer. I love it.
It's a really simple way to look at it. And if you want to delineate, right, the whole thing of like, Tracy, how did you start your career in marketing? If I was selling marketing tools, that is not talking about me and my company and my product or whatever. It's, Tracy, let's be helpful, like to you, to me, to others in the audience about how this worked, right? Not talking about your product, not talking about your company, helping them become a better blank, right? For your industry, that is helpful. And investing 10% of your company's effort, marketing effort toward those things, it's not 100% of your marketing becomes that, but the more you do that, the more trusted your brand becomes. And for the 95% of people that aren't in the market to buy your product, they're like, that company has been helpful to me for a long time. Look at HubSpot. Like, you want to know how to do something? You Google it. And it's like, it's on the HubSpot blog. They wrote an article about it.
I've used the HubSpot blog so many times.
They're extremely helpful. So by the time it comes to like, I need a CRM platform, what do I choose? Who should be on my short list, right? HubSpot appears because they've been helpful to marketers for years, whether you own their product or not. Did I need to register to read those blogs? No, right? They were just there being helpful in the market as a result, and helping me and my teams become better marketers. And when it comes time to set some vendors down at the table and say, we've got our short list, who are we evaluating? You want a seat at the table, right? And that's what the relationship building was about there, right?
Yeah.
And the trust building.
Okay, last question, Derek. Do you think
keep saying this? I thought we were already on the last question.
I think I talked all day about this. Actual last question. Do you think most marketing organizations today are adequately enabling their marketers to show up in this way? And if not, do you have a recommendation for something that people can try to kind of bring this type of relationship building into their marketing organization?
Yeah, no, I don't think people are adequately enabling their organization to do it. And part of that is because you have to have this trust that doing these things will work. And the first barrier is, wait, Tracy, you're on my team and you're going to go out and do something that's not talking about our company or our product. Wait, what do we employ you as a marketer to do here? Right? Having the trust that being helpful will provide value is the first. Like, you have to get over that hump and recognize that. And when I recognized it, instead of putting on a community event or company event and company forum that attracted 2,000 people, I was putting on a company and community forum or a community forum that attracted 40,000 people a year. It's a matter of scale, like how much of the market do you want to see and connect with and all of that. So you do have to get over that hump. But the other important thing that I put in my book and make sure to put there is when you go out and do that stuff, it's not just let's make people feel good. You have the tools in marketing to measure the impact and the results. We brought this audience together. They got value. They're continuing to get value. We're continuing to invest in being helpful to this audience, and we can measure we're building X amount of pipeline. We got X amount of leads. We got X amount of highly qualified leads. Those converted to sales opportunities. We closed X million dollars of business from that activity. You can't just let it go out there and not measure it like it's off on its own island of happiness. Look, David Spinks, who is a community-led marketing master out there, said, all businesses operate by a golden rule, and that is to make more money than they spend. Right? And if you're not attaching the community-led stuff and the relationship building stuff to the measure of your business performance, you're also doing it wrong. Like there has to be a measure. It's not just trust and be happy and do good and good things will come. Like you're a marketer, measure it. It's data driven, right? There's a way to connect the dot to the business. And if you can't, you could read my book and figure out ways that I and others have done it. But I think that's really it. Get over the hump, but then measure the activity that you have, as a result of doing it.
So great. And I agree with what Dan is saying here, is that this needs to be a TED Talk at every marketing conference this year.
So Derek and Tracy Roadshow. Here we go.
Yeah, man. Who needs TED Talk? It'll be the Tracy and Derek show. So this actually plays into something that I think is a very important part of this conversation and all of the conversations that we have on this show, is that these types of conversations are not a come for 60 minutes and have all of your answers and leaving the meeting and have everything figured out. These things are conversations, and there is different combinations of things that work for every person. And there's different ways that individual people can be more effectively enabled than other people. And so it's very important, if this is a conversation that you are passionate about, either for you from you're building your own business perspective, or you work in a marketing team, or you're a marketing leader, or heck, if you are just curious about building relationships in general, because I mean, a human relationship is a human relationship. Don't let this be the last time you are in a conversation about it. Connect with Derek. He demonstrated all of his huge wealth of knowledge. Read Derek's book. Connect with me. I don't have a book. Unfair Mindshare. Check it out and stay in the conversation. We had Trista and Dan joining us in the conversation today, and everybody else who didn't put anything in the comments. And for those of you who might be watching either live or on the replay and you didn't put anything in the comments, so we don't know that you're here, and your fellow conversationalists don't know that you're here, feel free to reach out to each other, connect, continue the conversation, explore your ideas on the topic and how you might look at building market relationships, or how you might help your clients to do that as well. This is an adventure and a journey that we get to go on together. And I mean, we talked quite a bit about this at the end of the conversation today, but one of the reasons this show exists is to empower marketers to be better marketers, to be more authentic, to do things more sustainably, to do things that matter. So thank you, Derek, for joining me in this conversation today. I feel like we could talk for much longer about this. Maybe we'll come back for a part 2.
TED Talk Roadshow. We're already being scheduled. Our booking agents are ahead of us.
Dan, hook us up. It was my pleasure. It's always my pleasure to be in conversation with you. I appreciate the value you added to the viewers so much today. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Dan and Trista, for getting into the conversation. And until next time, everybody, permission to do you. See you next time.
Thanks, Tracy. Bye.